Hello and welcome to today's webinar, A360 Collaboration for Revit. This webinar is brought to you by LiveLab Learning, which is a subsidiary of Academic Corp, a wholly owned applied software company created to provide world-class training. This is Camille Birch and I'm an account advisor. I'm delighted to be your moderator for today. Throughout our presentation, we encourage you to interact with us by typing in questions and comments using the question pane at the bottom of your screen. We'll be answering questions at the end of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded and will be available to you for future use on our YouTube channel. At the end of today's presentation, I'll make note of some special events and also an exciting promotion involving the product that we're presenting here today. I'd like to introduce to you two of our senior technology applications specialists, Robbie Sadawi and Rick Kramer. They will be conducting our presentation today. Rick, would you please introduce yourselves in further detail?
Thank you, Camille. My name is Rick Kramer. I'm a Senior Technical Specialist with Applied Software, and today's presentation is going to be about A360 Collaboration for Revit. With me, as Camille had mentioned, is Robbie. Robbie and I will be doing the presentation, PowerPoint presentation, and then also a live demonstration of A360. And we'll go to the next slide. As Camille had mentioned, we also have our YouTube channel, and search for LiveLab Learning. At LiveLab Learning, you'll find the following subject matters: building, design, and construction, utilities and civil infrastructure, product design and manufacturing as all of our topics. Within each one of these topics, you'll find classes that'll suit each and every one's needs. We have first look events, and Camille at the very end will be going over some of these first look events that we'll be having. Upcoming events is June 16th. If you're in Jacksonville, come on by for some free drinks, and also to find out about what's happening in architecture, engineering, and manufacturing, and also in Savannah on June 17th. Today's presentation, I'll be talking to you about Robbie, and Robbie has a Bachelor's of Architecture, a Master's of Architecture, and also a MA degree. He's a Senior Consultant Specialist at Applied Software, published author, 20+ years of AEC experience, a Autodesk Revit implementation certified expert, as well as a consultative methodology certified consultant, as well as a structural specialized certified consultant, and a regular speaker at AU, RTC, and AIA events. And let me introduce you to the live Robbie. Robbie?
Hey, thanks, Rick. I will go ahead and introduce Rick. Rick is an exceptional AE professional. He has a bachelor's degree from University of Florida and a master's degree from FAMU. He's a senior AEC technical consultant at Applied Software with 16+ years of experience in the AEC industry. He's also a Reviteer for the past 8 years and a certified professional in Revit and AutoCAD. He is also the co-author of the BIM execution plan for University of Central Florida. Back to you, Rick.
Thank you, Robbie. I'm super excited about having everyone on this call. In today's presentation, we're going to go over the 3 different flavors of A360. And A360 in the big picture is the clouds, and it's the different type of platforms that Autodesk offers in the cloud. First, starting off with A360 Drive, followed by Team, and then Collaboration for Revit. Each one of these offer different types of product descriptions and comparisons and price points. A360 Drive we'll go into a little bit later, as well as team and collaboration for Revit. And each one of these offer unique things. A360 Drive is similar to Dropbox, and it's absolutely free. A360 Team enables a team to collaborate or put projects out on the cloud for downloading. This is basically a more efficient way of having an FTP site. And then finally, collaboration for Revit, which I'm super excited to show you at the end of this presentation. Robbie and I are going to demonstrate collaboration for Revit, and that's basically taking your file, and instead of having it on your local C drive or your server, it's located on the cloud. The great thing about this is that you can be anywhere in the world and have access to your project. What you're seeing here is a typical workflow of all the different items surrounding a particular project. All 360 degrees of this project are from conceptual design all the way back to energy monitoring. All the different phases of the project are captured here. Autodesk 360 enables you to capture and manage all 360 degrees of a project. So let's think about this. Everything that's involved in taking a project from concept to reality. Autodesk has typically served people, designers, and engineers. But if you think about it, there are all kinds of other people that contribute to making the whole project happen. And all of these people use different tools. All of these tools create different artifacts and kinds of data. All the conversations, activities, decisions that happen, which, if they're captured, create an even more stuff to keep track of. Dealing with all of this is time-consuming and inefficient. As you can see, what we've been missing is a really good infrastructure to manage all of this. So, the new Autodesk 360 places the project, you'll notice, right in the center of all of these things, connecting people, data, and activities in a single location. It organizes and provides access to project information, not just the design data, and it offers a greater user experience on every device, bringing information to the full team. This isn't just for designers, but it's for everyone. So everyone from the owner to the designer to the engineer now has the ability to access this information live from the cloud. What we'd like to do is talk about building information modeling, the way it's been done yesterday and the way that it's going to be done in the future, tomorrow. The key here is locally collaborative efforts versus a socially shared effort. The idea here is that instead of working individually on your own projects within your own office, you now have the ability to bring in the aspect of socially shared information. This is a different dimension on how to integrate different people in different aspects of your project in one application. Socially shared is the key here. Next, you'll see how cloud sharing works. The idea with the cloud, and everyone's familiar with the cloud and everyone is going to the cloud, the idea here is that everything within the A360 cloud has a multi-firm concurrent authoring. In other words, any office can go through and create this content and place it on the cloud. The wonderful thing about this is there's no IT setup. There's no extra server requirement, and you have direct access to other services such as Buzzsaw, energy analysis, viewing, rendering, and the list goes on and on and on. The way cloud sharing works is that you'll see the cloud on the right. You have all your Revit models. What this shows is each individual RVT file. Let's say we have a structural model, MEP model, and another one. Each one of these different Revit models are located in the cloud instead of on your server. Each person all the way on the left with their own computer have access in real time to each one of those models, enabling everyone to work live in the model at any given time. The next thing is that this also enables people from different firms. If you're working with firm A, firm B, firm C, and firm D, notice firm A is the engineers, maybe firm B is the owners, firm C is the designers, and firm D is the general contractors. The wonderful thing about cloud work sharing is each one of these teams, each firm can work live on one particular Revit model, therefore eliminating the chance of accidentally sending the wrong file. Built into Collaboration for Revit is something called the communicator. The key here is that each one of us uses IMing, whether it's on your Android phone or an iPhone or through the web. We're all familiar with the web chat, and what this does, it enables you to communicate directly or send screenshots or do team chats all through the communicator, which is automatically built into Revit and launched once you run Collaboration for Revit. Another aspect of this is that it also gives you the ability to see who's working on the project at what time. You'll notice that in the model here we have Emily Bates. She's actively working on the model as well as Jack. Other people that are working on a different model are Kate Francis and Tom Smith. Each one of these are unique users, and we can tell that Will at the very bottom is on vacation, so he's not working on the project at all. This gives us a live view of everyone working on our particular project currently and actively. Next is to see as a project manager. A lot of times I'd like to see who's working on what and have they recently synchronized. What this does, it automatically gives you a timeline activity. You'll notice in the middle it says activity and gives you the ability to see when someone synced, or if someone like Jack, third row down, had some type of central failure, therefore giving a real-time view of what's happening on your project. All this is easily done through communication, as we're all used to doing through such things as MSN Messenger, Google Talk, Skype, all of these in the past which have provided your own unique way of communicating one way. This brings it all together in one communication device and basically embeds it within your project. A360 Team enables design and engineering-centric project teams to work efficiently together in one central workspace. I can't tell you how excited I am about this because it really gives you the ability to share information live. It enables you to view different documents. In the past, if I had a SolidWorks model and I wanted to view it, I needed to have that application. The viewing capabilities within A360 enables you to view hundreds of different file types without that software. You basically launch the web app and you can view and document basically any file type you need without having to have the software. And lastly, if you wanted to look for a particular part, this could be a screw or it could be a structural component. Each one of these is unique and you can find it all through the web. Lastly, you have also the ability to locate and look at this information in different ways, all through the cloud and all through going clockwise from Revit all the way to mobile devices. Pick your flavor of Android or iPhone to a computer all the way back to an iPhone. All of these work in a live method, transferring information back and forth to the cloud. Robbie, if you don't mind, do you mind describing the A360 team and project hubs?
Yes, Rick, thank you. So when you set up your project for the first time on A360 team, which is a prerequisite, by the way, for collaboration for Revit, you're setting up that in a hub. And that hub has a team owner, and that person would assign an admin person who in turn assigns a moderator and project team members. Now, there are people on the team who may not be authors of the documents, but they want to have access. They are stakeholders, and they may want to have access to the project data. So these are called the project contributors. Now, contributors can be varied in their roles, but basically, depending on the project type, it could be open, closed, or secret. And the two project types that are closed or secret may have contributors to them, while the open one may not have contributors because everybody is participating. So we call this the project hub, and the storage is pooled in a project hub in one place for easy access. Back to you, Rick.
Thank you, Robbie. Basically, what you're seeing here is the cloud solution. What this does, it eliminates IT labor, expense, and hardware. So imagine here just for a moment, you're probably wondering, why do I have a picture of someone pumping gas into a car? Think of the car here as your server. Your server constantly needs gas here to run. If you take away the server, take away the car, you take away the need to constantly having to fuel up the car or the server. Therefore, removing the server and having all of your information stored on the cloud eliminates the labor and the expense of upkeep for a server. Next, we'll be talking about A360 Team. A360 Team basically is now a viewing window. This is what's called your dashboard. On the dashboard, you have the ability to see what's happening to your projects, be able to search anything, and also upload and or create. You can create projects and bring them to your dashboard. This is basically a snapshot view from the web. If we dive into it further, you'll notice that you now have into this one particular project called the factory. In this, we have on the left-hand side your actual project, data, people, calendar, wiki pages, and tasks. Each one of these are different unique things that everyone on the entire project team members have access to. And number 3, you'll see the project activity. On number 4, I should say, project activity, and this gives you the ability to post comments and also information about your activity on the project. Lastly, you have the ability to see recent data when someone has uploaded or created some new documents. Next is the data that all of us are familiar with. Instead of going to your local C drive and then going to a folder, it's the same file folder structure just on the cloud. So data and then files, and each one of those files are different folders. So you could have different milestones and drawing folders for your project needs. You have the familiar controls of a web interface as well as basic file operations. Here's where you can download and copy the latest, greatest file. Again, think of this as a very easy way of creating an FTP site, but that is on steroids, as I like to call it. Next, you have the ability, if you notice all the way on the left, you have sheets. I can publish drawing sheets and 3D views and have people be able to mark them up and even walk through a 3D model. Keep in mind, they don't even need Revit or any other application for that matter to view this, just a web interface. And by the way, Google Chrome is the only one that's supported right now for this web interface. Now, here comes the fun part, folks. We're actually going to go through and launch the A360 drive, then Team, and then C4R, or better known as Collaboration for Revit. What I'd like to do is ask Robbie here to demonstrate how easy it is to find A360 drive and Team, and then we'll both launch the C4R. Robbie?
Yes, thank you, Rick. I'm going to go ahead and launch my Chrome browser and simply search for A360. It's that simple. And the results of the search will give us several options. One of them is to go to A360 Drive, which Rick talked about earlier. So I'm going to open that up in this tab, and then the other one would be the A360 Home. And so we'll switch to the Drive interface. It's going to ask me to log in I'm going to use my email address to log in, and password, and I'll make sure that I'll keep signed in through this process. Again, Google Chrome is the only browser right now that's supported. This is going to put me in A360 Drive, which is essentially the same old file storage and sharing that is available, was available in the past. I guess didn't sign in. Let me see if I can sign in one more time. Oh, here we go. There was just a delay. Okay, so you should be able to see the A360 Drive. It's made up of the Home tab and the Documents tab. In the Home tab, you see recent activity of who uploaded what and what date, and how the files were downloaded and shared by multiple users. Under the Documents tab, I have a list of all my folders and my files. I can access the one of the folders here by going to the folder details and determine the users that have access to this folder. For example, in this case, Rick has full access to this folder, while Camille and Bree have been invited to this folder but have not accepted my invitation yet. So I can edit the sharing, and I can change the status and the access rights to these users any way I want. It's basically just a file storage and sharing website that forms the basis of A360 team and collaboration for Revit. So if I wanted to change the access rights, for example, for Camille, I can make her have full access, or download only, or download and update. By doing that, I may send her another invite and say, Camille, hi Camille, please download. I may have misspelled her name.
That's fine. As you see, again, this is really a smarter way of sharing documents out on the cloud instead of the FTP or most common Dropbox.
Okay, so this is the free module of A360. So now we'll switch to A360 team, and I'll go ahead and sign in. And if I'm already signed in on Drive, the browser should be able to remember my login information. So here's my own hub, and if I haven't created any projects yet, it will automatically give me a default project for myself. We have here the Projects tab, the Data tab, and the People tab, and shows me who is sharing this hub with me. And of course, there is also a calendar. So A360 team is a prerequisite for collaboration for Revit, and you have to have that in order to create hubs and share with other folks. So I'd like to ask Rick to take over for the next step.
Sure.
Regarding collaboration for Revit.
Thank you, Robbie. And what you're seeing here basically is, again, the ability to look at a particular project. At this point, what we're going to do, everything that you've seen so far has been on the web. But the nuts and bolts of this is really collaboration for Revit. We're going to demonstrate for you how, and you'll see in just a moment. Right now, Robbie's demonstrating, he's showing you this project called Audubon. Right now we're using the central location on A360 on the cloud to store our files. We've broken out each one of the phases or the disciplines out on the cloud so other people can download them. What we're going to do then to actually collaborate and work on it, we're going to pretend for a moment that we're going to need, let's say, the architect, MEP, and structural engineer. I'm going to go ahead and pretend to be the structural engineer. And Robbie, do you want to be the mechanical?
Yes, sure. Are you able to share your screen right now? I would like to make you the presenter.
Yep, absolutely. So what I'm going to do here is just come over to my screen. Let me just close this.
You're the presenter now.
Okay. Basically, I'll show you how easy it is to launch Collaboration for Revit. For those of you who have used Revit before, this should look very familiar to you. You're basically opening up Revit, and over here under Projects, I'll select Open. This time, instead of going and browsing to my data drive or my end drive to look for projects, I basically browse right over here to my A360. A360 automatically loads up and basically links out to the web. These are my different projects that I'm currently involved in. The Audubon project I double click on, and this basically takes me right to the cloud. There's nothing I had to do, and the wonderful thing about this is there's no IT setup. It's basically installed automatically and enables me to launch and browse these projects. I'm going to go ahead and launch the structural model and download it. I'm going to load the central file and load that file, that central file, onto my computer. This process is exactly the same as if you were opening up a file on your own computer from your own server. I'm opening up a central file and it's automatically creating a local copy on my own computer. We're going to unmute everyone just for a moment to see if anyone has any questions while I'm loading. How's everyone doing out there? I think everyone.
Hey Rick, this is Ravi. Let me know when you're ready to switch to my screen.
Okay. Sorry about that. All right, over here what I've done now, you'll notice that I've gone ahead and launched the structural plan. And what I'm going to do is now go back to Robbie. And Robbie's going to demonstrate how he's able to open this as well.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. So I just opened the MEP file on Autodesk 360 Collaboration for Revit, and as you notice in the view, I have linked in the structural file into the MEP file, and I'm able to navigate the file and locate issues or problems between MEP, ductwork, pipes, cable trays, and equipment versus structural framing. I have overwritten the graphics in the view so that the structural file is half-tone, so that the MEP will stand out. So I'm seeing some issues, but I would like to create a report that is a little bit more robust than just a visual inspection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run an interference check between the current MEP file and the linked file. And I will send that report over to Rick so he can take some action if needed. So on the left-hand side, we have the mechanical equipment check, and on the right-hand side, we have the structural framing in the linked file being checked. Automatically, Revit is going to give us a list of few items that interfere with each other, mainly the heat pump and structural framing joists. So I'm going to go through them one by one. As soon as I select an item on the interference checking report, it's going to highlight in the model. I can, if I don't see it, I can simply click on Show, and it will zoom right into it. So this is just, for most of you, you should know this. This is a Revit standard procedure, but it comes in very handy when it comes to collaboration and coordination. When I switch to a different one, you'll see that it highlights in the model as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus my attention on this one in particular. I'm going to say zoom in on this one, and I wanted to take action on this, so I'm going to send a message to Rick and have him make a change to this particular joist that is interfering with this heat pump. So what I'm going to do is basically say, all right, I'm going to export that interference check-in report to an HTML file, and I'm going to override the previous version I had there before, and go ahead and go to the chat box over here and select Rick by name. I'm going to go ahead and attach that HTML file that I just created, Audubon MEP interference check, and it will be sent to Rick so he can open it and he'll see exactly what I'm looking for. I'm particularly interested in the structural framing member that has a unique element ID 607509. That element ID, I want to be able to communicate to Rick that that's the one I want him to take action on. So what I'll do is I'll create a screen capture, like so, and capture that. And I'm going to say, okay, Rick, you know what? I need to tell him exactly what the element ID is, so there's no question about it. So I'm going to say simply select, open the HTML file for interference checking, copy the element ID from the report, and then go back to Revit Collaboration for Revit Communicator and paste that into the chat box and go ahead and send it to Rick. So Rick, back to you, sir.
Thank you, Robbie. And for those of you who aren't familiar with IDs, every object in Revit has its own ID. Just like you and I have our own social security number, makes us all individuals. Revit automatically places an ID on every single piece of equipment or component or structural object within Revit. So it's unique, and that identifier can then be shared to other project team members. Now, let's see. We should be seeing my screen. Hold on a minute. Okay, so back to me. Thank you, Robbie. Now everyone should be seeing over here my window over here. This is my 3D model. And over here in my messenger, I've noticed that I have a message. This message over here says structural framing, and since he told me the identifier, over here what I'm going to do is just simply highlight it, copy it, then come over here, let's say to a floor plan view, and find the ID. Type in my ID, click Show, and there it is. Right over here, this structural component is interfering with the mechanical system. So what I'm going to do is going to go over here and move it over. And then while I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and synchronize. This synchronizes back to the central file, not to my local computer, but it brings it back over to the server on the cloud. What I'll then do is I'm going to go ahead and make Robbie back the presenter. And in the meantime, while we're switching over, after I finish synchronizing, I'll go ahead and send Robbie a message. All done.
Okay, thanks, Rick. I'm going to say here, thanks, Rick, and let me know. I guess you already told me, huh? Okay, so
I said all done.
You're ahead of me, so this is good. So you don't necessarily have a voice chat, but then you definitely have the text chat. So now I know that that Rick had already synced with Central. Well, all I have to do now is go back to the Manage Links and reload that linked file into my MEP file, and as a result, you will be able to see visually that this joist had moved away from the mechanical equipment. And that's it. It's done. So I'm going to say here to Rick, well done, Rick.
Thank you, Robbie.
And I'm going to say going home for the weekend. So back to you.
All right, and basically I have it and wrote back, have a great week. Now, one of the things that you have to keep in mind here is that all of this communication typically would have been lost in an email. It would have been stored somewhere else. All the communication back and forth between Robbie and myself in this chat window is being stored into this project. So at any point in time, I can go back and review these comments and see exactly what was happened and when in the activity monitor. Now we'll go back to the PowerPoint presentation and conclude our presentation shortly. But before we do that, we'd like to ask if anyone has any questions.
Hi, Rick. It's Camille again. We do have a couple questions. One person is asking, and I think you covered this, but you may want to hit it again. Does the local file get stored in your computer, or is it a cache file in the cloud? Could you go over that one more time?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. That is a local copy that is on your computer. The cached file is actually stored on your computer, and the built-in accelerator goes through and basically looks at the changes between what's locally stored on your computer and on the cloud, and only changes the delta changes. In other words, if you have A, B, and C, and the server, the cloud, only has A and B, it's only going to send back C. It's only going to send back that one part that's changed. So the changes happen instantly, and you have a local copy that you're working from, just like you would normally in a regular cloudless environment, let's say.
Thank you, Rick. And then someone else wanted to know how multiple people can access the same file at the same time.
Okay. Basically, the way that that is handled, it's in the same fashion that what's called a central file in Revit. What happens is when you're using Revit, you have the ability to work on a project. When you make the project a central file, it pushes it to have the ability to have hundreds of people, if need be, work on one project at the same time. The wonderful thing about Revit is if both of us are working in the same project, let's say Robbie and I are both working in the structural model, and I grab one of the column grids, let's say column grid 3, for example, and I start to do something to it. If I move it or just click on it, I take what's called ownership of it. The other person, whoever the team member is that's also logged into that same file, if they try to move that same column or column on the grid, it won't let them. It'll say, hey, would you like to send a request to Rick? Rick has what's called possession of that object. Would you like to relinquish it, is what I would get on my end. And I say, okay, Robbie, go ahead, and I relinquish my control or hold of the component. Revit is amazing in regards to controlling that type of access, and it happens instantly. And that's how you can share or collaboratively work on one file called a central file. Hope that answered your question.
I think so. I'm not getting any follow-ups, so that's good. And then another question was, how long would it normally take to download a file when you're working in this format?
Well, it all depends, quite frankly, on the speed of your internet connection. The key here is to have a dedicated hard line into your server, and then you probably wouldn't want to work wirelessly, as wirelessly basically you don't have this download speed. But we're able to work on these files, Robbie, and I think it took me maybe 20 seconds to download the file from the cloud, and it's probably a 50 meg file. Again, as the file gets larger, it's just the first time that you download that object is the first time it takes some time to download, and then as you're working on it, you synchronize, and basically you're working on it live. It's not as if you're having to wait. It's just really the first time that you load the project and open the project as any type of per se delay.
Thanks, Rick. Another gentleman asked, how large were the demo files that we went through today, just to give him an idea.
Robbie, do you have an idea? I know you have those, a copy of those files we were working on.
Yes, Rick, I can probably quickly browse to the location where the files were originally. These were originally on my hard disk, and I can probably look at them very quickly here. The files are
2249 megs.
Yeah, they're in the range of 20 to 50 megs each.
Great, thank you. We had another question come in. When we exchange files through FTP, that also serves as a record of what was exchanged at this point. How do you create a record in the cloud, and how do you compare models of what has been changed?
Okay. Basically, that's an excellent question, and thank you for whomever asked that question. There's something within the browser that basically is an activity monitor. It was in one of our slides previously, where in the meantime, if Robbie wants, I'll talk about it. If Robbie, if you want to open up your A360, we have the ability to basically view any changes. On the right-hand side, you'll see recent all types, and basically that gives you the ability to view information on how drawings are uploaded and when was the last time they were uploaded and by whom. If you dive down into details over here, if we right-click, for example, on any of those over here, you'll notice the little symbols on the right. There's different actions that we can see of download, copy, move, and even if someone accidentally deletes it, there's the undelete. So we have the ability to access the history of each one of these projects and who did what and when.
And a good follow-up question to that we just got in, is it possible to go back to previous versions of a project?
Do you mean different versions, like between Revit 2015 and 2014, you mean?
No, I think he means if you wanted to go to an older version of the project to work on something or to remind yourself of something that was changed, is that possible?
Absolutely. It's called versioning. And within versioning, you have the ability to open up an older saved file. Keep in mind, one of the things, and I'm not sure if this was going to be asked or not, but one of the key things within working within Revit, and this has really nothing to do with Autodesk 360, but just Revit in general, all the team members need to be working on the same platform version. So in other words, we're working in 2016, all the team members from the structural to the consultants to anyone who wants to look at the drawings needs to be, if they want to open it in Revit, they need to be in Revit 2016. Revit does not have the ability to save down.
That's good to know. Thank you. I'll give everybody another minute to ask any additional questions, but in the meantime, I just want to remind anyone in the Jacksonville, Florida or Savannah, Georgia area that we have a couple of events coming up here later this month. And Rick, I believe you'll be at least one of these. Jacksonville on June 16th and Savannah on June 17th, we are hosting our first look events. And what we'll be talking about is our company and how we're different from other companies, subscription and how that benefits you. And also our presentation is the future of making things, and we'll hit both architecture and engineering and manufacturing technologies. So we'd like to invite anyone to attend that. If you'd like more information, feel free to give me a call or send me an email, and I will get you to the right account manager. And then finally, I did want to mention a promotion that we currently have going on. There's several promotions in effect right now, but I'd like to call your attention to item number 4. There is a brand new promotion, which is a $400 rebate on the platform that Robbie and Rick presented today, A360 Collaboration for Revit. So again, if you will email or call me, I will get you to the correct sales team to help you with that. So I'm not seeing any other questions, so we want to thank everyone for attending our webinar today. If you haven't already done so, we invite you to search for Live Lab Learning on Facebook, and if you'll like our page there, you will receive the latest information and offers from Applied Software. There's also a complete schedule of upcoming training events and webinars. We appreciate you being here. Hope you found the webinar informative and it will be helpful to your future business. We also would like to invite you to attend our next webinar, which is BIM for Small Projects, and that will be held on Tuesday, June 30th. So with that being said, have a great day, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, everyone.